Rain fell in sheets over the small riverside village, turning the dirt paths into mud and swelling the river beyond its banks. Mara, a girl of 12, ran along the edge of the village, tried to rescue her animals from the rising water. Her hair was plastered to her face, and her clothes clung to her small frame, but she ignored the cold and the fear that prickled her skin. Suddenly, a tiny cry reached her through the roar of the flood. She froze and scanned the rushing waters. There, caught among floating debris, was a tiny dragon hatchling, its wings too small to help it stay afloat, scales glinting silver even in the storm. Its eyes met hers, wide and terrified. Without thinking, Mara dove into the river. The current yanked at her, dragging her under for a moment before she broke the surface again, gasping. She kicked and clawed her way toward the hatchling, wrapping her small arms around it as the water tugged at her. The dragon trembled, tiny claws pressing against her chest. "Don't be afraid," Mara shouted, though the roar of the river swallowed her words. "I've got you." She fought against the current, feeling it rip at her legs and arms, but she refused to let go. With a final effort, she grabbed a sturdy branch floating nearby and used it to pull herself and the dragon toward the riverbank. Water splashed over her face, but finally, she collapsed on the muddy shore, panting and soaked to the bone, with the tiny dragon cradled in her arms. The hatchling shivered, but it did not struggle. Instead, it nuzzled against Mara, as if it already trusted her completely. She stroked its tiny head, amazed at the warmth and life in its small body. Its wings twitched, and a soft sound, almost like a purr, escaped it. Mara looked around. The villagers were watching from a safe distance, fear and curiosity in their eyes. Whispers passed among them. Dragons were rare, feared, and often considered dangerous. But Mara ignored their stares. Her heart only knew one thing. She had to save the hatchling. "Come on," she said softly, lifting the dragon carefully. "We need to get you somewhere safe." She ran toward the small shed behind her home, where she kept supplies for her animals. The flood had turned the ground into a slippery mess, but she moved quickly, sliding sometimes, her hands gripping the dragon tightly. She reached the shed and barricaded the door with whatever she could find, making a small nest with hay and blankets for the hatchling. The dragon curled up, tiny wings folding over his body, eyes closing as if it finally felt safe. Mara sat beside it, shivering and exhausted. She watched it breathe, each rise and fall of its chest mesmerizing. She had never seen a creature like this before. Its scales shimmered, reflecting the dim light that filtered through the rain-soaked windows. "What do I do now?" she whispered. "I can't let anyone hurt you." The hatchling blinked at her, and for a moment, it seemed as though it understood. Mara's heart swelled with determination. She would protect it, no matter what. She would feed it, care for it, and keep it hidden until it was strong enough to survive on its own. For hours, Mara stayed with the dragon, listening to the storm outside and murmuring softly to calm her new companion. She collected scraps of food from the shed, some bread, a bit of dried meat, and tried to coax the hatchling to eat. It hesitated, then nibbled carefully, trusting her enough to take sustenance from her hands. By nightfall, the flood had receded slightly, leaving the village battered but intact. Mara knew she could not show the dragon to anyone yet. The villagers would not understand. Dragons were creatures of legend and fear, not companions. Yet, she felt a bond forming, a connection that was unspoken but powerful. The hatchling had chosen her, and she had chosen in return. Exhausted but determined, Mara made a small bed of blankets and hay in the corner of the shed. The dragon nestled into it, closing its eyes, breathing softly and letting her presence soothe it. Mara sat beside it, her hand resting on its small head, feeling the tiny warmth against her palm. "You're safe now," she whispered. "I won't let anything happen to you." Outside, the storm quieted, leaving only the soft sound of dripping water. Mara stayed awake for hours, watching over the hatchling. She knew this was only the beginning of something extraordinary, something she could not yet understand. The dragon stirred, small claws stretching, wings twitching, and a faint glow reflecting off its scales. Mara smiled, heart full of hope and wonder. She had saved a life, and in return, She had found a companion who would be with her for as long as it lived. As the night deepened, Mara finally allowed herself to rest, still keeping one hand on the dragon. In her dreams, she saw visions of vast skies, fire and flight, and creatures larger than anything she had ever imagined. She woke with a start, feeling the dragon press closer, as if it were speaking to her in its own silent way. Mara understood something profound then. Saving the hatchling had changed her life forever. She could not know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. This small, frightened dragon was destined for greatness, and somehow she would be part of it. Outside, the first light of dawn filtered through clouds, casting a soft glow on the river and the village. Mara held the hatchling close, feeling the promise of a bond that would last a lifetime. Whatever lay ahead, she and the dragon would face it together, and she would protect it with all her courage and heart. This was the beginning of their story, and Mara had no idea just how far it would reach. Years passed, and Mara grew into a young woman, strong and clever, with eyes that reflected determination and curiosity. The dragon hatchling she had saved all those years ago had grown into a magnificent creature. Its scales now shimmered like molten silver in the sunlight, wings stretching wide and powerful, eyes glimmering with intelligence far beyond any ordinary animal. Mara called him Saphir, and their bond had only deepened with time. Every morning, Mara and Saphir would explore the forests and hills near the village. He would soar above her, wings slicing the air, while she ran below, learning to read the wind and the land as he guided her. Sometimes, Saphir would land beside her, and they would communicate in ways that humans could not fully understand. Through gestures, sounds, and subtle emotions, Mara had learned to feel what he felt, to understand what he wanted without a single word being spoken. Despite the dragon's size, Mara kept him hidden from the villagers. People were still afraid of dragons, whispering about dangerous creatures and bad omens. Mara's family and neighbors knew only that she often disappeared into the woods and returned tired, her clothes torn, smelling of smoke and earth. But no one suspected the truth, that she shared her life with a being that could fly higher than the clouds and breathe fire that could melt stone. Saphir was more than a companion. He was a teacher. He taught Mara patience, observation, and careful planning. He would sometimes hide behind trees, and Mara had to find him by noticing small movements in the forest. She learned to anticipate his actions and understand his moods, which sharpened her senses and intuition. In turn, Mara shared stories of humans, of kindness and courage, which seemed to fascinate Saphir. He listened, tilting his head, absorbing every word, and Mara often wondered if he remembered them for years, storing them like treasures in his mind. One summer, Mara discovered that Saphir was more than just a dragon. His eyes glowed faintly at night, and sometimes, when he stretched his wings, the air around him seemed to hum with energy. Mara realized that he might have origins beyond their planet, something she could not explain, but instinctively trusted. Still, she never questioned her loyalty to him. He had saved her, too, in ways she could not fully understand, teaching her courage and the value of protecting what is precious. Their bond became well known to the forest creatures. Birds would perch near Mara as Saphir watched from above. Deer would stop to observe them, and even the wolves seemed to sense Saphir's protective presence. Mara felt a strange satisfaction in knowing that her dragon was respected by the world around him, even if humans remained wary. One afternoon, while Mara and Saphir rested near a quiet river, she noticed strange lights flickering in the sky. They were distant at first, subtle and almost like stars, but gradually they grew larger, moving in ways that no bird or cloud could. Mara squinted, shielding her eyes. "Saphir, do you see that?" Saphir's ears twitched, and he stretched his wings wide, rising into the air to get a better view. His scales caught the sunlight, reflecting brilliant silver patterns across the water. He let out a low, resonant sound, a mix of warning and curiosity. Mara realized that whatever those lights were, Saphir recognized them. That night, Mara sat with Saphir under the stars, pondering the strange sightings. She ran her hand along his scales, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. "Do you think someone is coming for you?" she asked softly. Saphir nuzzled her, a gesture of reassurance, but his eyes held a distant, thoughtful look. Mara knew that whatever was approaching, it was connected to him, and soon it would touch her life as well. She felt a shiver of anticipation, a mix of excitement and fear. She trusted Saphir, and she would follow him wherever this mystery led. Mara also thought about how much she had grown alongside Saphir. The girl who once waded into a dangerous flood to save a helpless hatchling was now a young woman who could plan, think, and act with courage and intelligence. She had learned from the dragon how to read the world, to sense danger, and to value life in all its forms. And Saphir had changed as well. He was no longer the frightened hatchling struggling against the current. He was a strong, noble, and intelligent being capable of guiding and protecting. Their daily routines continued, filled with flying lessons, games of strategy, and quiet conversations under the stars. Mara taught Saphir to trust humans cautiously, while Saphir showed Mara the importance of patience and strength, both physical and mental. Their relationship was unique, a partnership that transcended species, a bond built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. One morning, while they practiced flying maneuvers over the forest, Mara noticed something unusual. Saphir hovered in one spot, wings outstretched, staring intently at the horizon. Mara followed his gaze and saw distant glimmers that seemed to move with purpose. They were unlike anything she had seen before, sleek, metallic shapes that reflected sunlight, moving as if they were searching for something. Saphir let out a low roar, a warning, but also a call. Mara felt her heart race. "Do you know what they are?" she whispered. Saphir tilted his head and nudged her gently, as if to say, "Soon you will understand." Mara realized that their lives were about to change. The dragon she had saved as a girl was not just a companion or protector. He was a link to a larger, mysterious world. And she, Mara, had a part to play in what was coming. A part she could not yet see, but which would shape her future and perhaps the fate of many. As the sun set, painting the sky with gold and crimson, Mara rested on Saphir's back as he glided above the forest. The wind rushed past them, and the world stretched out below, vast and full of possibilities. Mara felt hope, courage, and determination. She had grown alongside the dragon, and together, they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. And somewhere beyond the horizon, distant lights continued to move, signaling that the next chapter of their story was approaching, one that would test their bond, courage, and the human spirit itself. Mara woke early. The forest bathed in the soft glow of dawn. Saphir lay beside her, wings folded, his silver scales shimmering in the morning light. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of wet earth and pine. Everything seemed calm, but Mara sensed a tension she could not explain. As they moved along the riverbank, Saphir suddenly stiffened. His ears twitched, and his tail flicked with precision. Mara followed his gaze and saw a faint glimmer far in the sky. At first, she thought it was a reflection of sunlight on clouds, but the shapes moved deliberately, forming patterns that were not natural. "What is that?" Mara asked softly, her voice barely above the whisper of the river. Saphir let out a low hum, a sound Mara had come to understand as his way of saying, "Pay attention." He leaped into the air, wings cutting the sky with power and grace, drawing Mara's gaze upward. The glimmers grew larger, revealing themselves as strange, sleek ships moving in formation. Their shapes were unlike any human vessel, metallic and streamlined, glinting like stars against the sky. Mara's heart raced. "Ships, alien ships?" she whispered. Her mind struggled to comprehend what she was seeing. The dragon beside her, the creature she had grown up with, had connections she could only guess at, but this, a fleet of advanced vessels, was far beyond anything she had imagined. Saphir circled above her, then landed nearby, lowering his head and nudging her toward a hill where she could see better. Mara climbed quickly, trying to take in the sight. The fleet moved with precision, almost as if they were searching for someone or something. "They're looking for you," Mara said aloud, feeling both fear and awe. She reached out, stroking Saphir's scales. "Are they here because of you?" Saphir pressed his head against her hand, a gesture of reassurance. Then he spread his wings and lifted off again, flying closer to the fleet, keeping Mara in view as she climbed higher. The ships seemed to respond to him in some subtle way, shifting formation slightly, pausing, then continuing as if following his lead. Mara watched, fascinated and frightened, as the fleet came closer. She had never felt so small and human in her life, surrounded by beings and machines far more advanced than anything she knew. And yet, she did not feel powerless. Saphir was with her, and she trusted him completely. As the day progressed, the ships hovered above the forest, scanning, observing, but not attacking. Mara realized that they were not enemies. There was a purpose here, something important, something connected to the dragon she had saved years ago. She felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Whatever was coming, it would change her life forever. That evening, Mara and Saphir sat on a cliff overlooking the river. The fleet remained in the distance, lights flickering, shapes shifting with an intelligence that Mara could feel, but not fully understand. Saphir lowered his head, eyes glowing softly in the twilight. Mara reached out, touching the scales. "They're not going to hurt us," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "Right." Saphir gave a low, rumbling sound, one she had learned to interpret as confirmation. Mara nodded slowly, feeling a strange calm settle over her. The dragon had guided her through every challenge of her life so far, and she trusted him to guide her now. As night fell, the stars mirrored the distant lights of the fleet, and Mara felt a sense of destiny settling over her. She realized that saving Saphir as a girl had not only given him life, but had also connected her to something far greater than her village, her world, or even herself. There was a bond here that stretched beyond time, beyond species, and perhaps beyond the stars themselves. The next morning, the fleet approached closer, revealing more of their sleek, shimmering forms. Mara noticed that they carried smaller vessels, some hovering, others landing on distant clearings. She felt a thrill of anticipation. This was no accident. Saphir's kind, or something connected to him, had come to recognize her courage, her loyalty, and her heart. Saphir circled higher, signaling to Mara to observe carefully. She watched as the ships arranged themselves into a precise formation, almost like a display of respect or recognition. Mara realized that they were not here to conquer or destroy. They were acknowledging her, or perhaps preparing to involve her in something far larger than she could yet imagine. Her mind raced. 15 years ago, she had waded into a flood to save a helpless hatchling, not knowing what she was doing. And now, years later, that single act of bravery and compassion had drawn the attention of beings from across the stars. Mara felt a mixture of pride, fear, and wonder. She turned to Saphir, who hovered beside her, wings spread wide, glowing faintly under the moonlight. "What do you think they want?" she asked softly. Saphir nudged her gently, a silent message she understood perfectly. Be ready. The fleet was coming not just for him, but for her too. As they watched the ships, Mara felt a surge of determination. She had grown alongside Saphir, learned courage, patience, and wisdom from him, and now it was time to see what those lessons could bring. Whatever awaited them, she would face it with strength and heart, as she had done since the day she first rescued a tiny dragon from a flood. The fleet's lights shimmered in the distance, promising change, challenge, and destiny. Mara placed her hand on Saphir's scales, feeling the steady pulse of life and strength beneath her fingers. Together, they would face the unknown, and Mara knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test courage, intelligence, and the true spirit of humanity against the vastness of the stars. The morning sky was painted with soft pink and gold as Mara stood on the hilltop, Saphir hovering above her with wings outstretched. The fleet had drawn closer overnight, now clearly visible in the distance. Massive ships, sleek and shining, moved with precision, their lights reflecting on the river below. Mara's heart pounded in her chest, equal parts fear and awe. "They're here," she whispered, touching Saphir's scales. He gave a low, comforting rumble, his eyes gleaming with pride and reassurance. Mara took a deep breath. Today would be the day she would meet the beings behind the fleet, beings who had watched her and Saphir for years, waiting for the right moment. The first ship descended slowly, landing on a wide clearing near the village. A ramp extended, and Mara's eyes widened as she saw figures emerge. They were taller than humans, slender and elegant, with shining skin that seemed to glow faintly. Their eyes held intelligence and curiosity, but also respect. Mara instinctively felt that they were not hostile. Saphir landed beside her, protective yet calm. Mara noticed that the dragons within the fleet had begun to descend as well, smaller but powerful, circling above like guardians. Mara realized that the dragons recognized her, signaling to the visitors that she was someone of importance. One of the taller beings stepped forward, and Mara could feel a subtle energy emanating from them. It was not threatening, but commanding, drawing her attention fully. Mara, the being said in a voice that was both soft and powerful, resonating in her mind rather than her ears. 15 years ago, you showed courage, compassion, and wisdom beyond your years. You saved one of our kind when no one else would. That act has not been forgotten. Mara's breath caught. She had expected curiosity, maybe questions, but not this. You remember? She asked, voice trembling. The being inclined their head. We remember every choice you made that day. Your heart proved itself. That is why we have come. Saphir nudged Mara gently, his eyes urging her to listen carefully. The being continued. Our species and others allied with us recognize your bravery and loyalty. We come to offer you a place of honor, not as a mere human, but as a leader, a guide, and an empress among our peoples. You have the wisdom and courage to unite worlds. Mara's mind spun. Empress? Me? But I'm just a human. I don't know how to... You have shown what is required. The being interrupted gently. Power is not given by strength alone, but by heart, intelligence, and courage. You have demonstrated these in abundance. The fleet and the dragons stand with you because they know your worth. Saphir lowered his head to Mara, pressing her hand against the scales as if to say, It is true. Mara swallowed hard, a mix of disbelief, excitement, and responsibility washing over her. The tiny girl who had once waded into a flood to save a hatchling was now being recognized by an entire civilization of dragons and advanced beings. The emissaries moved closer, and Mara could see that each dragon had a counterpart among them, intelligent beings who seemed to communicate with the dragons silently. It was clear that her life with Saphir had prepared her for this moment, teaching her to understand creatures, communicate beyond words, and lead with empathy. One of the emissaries extended a hand, palm open, as if inviting Mara to step forward. Do you accept this role? To guide, to protect, and to unite? Mara looked at Saphir. His silver scales gleamed in the sunlight, eyes filled with pride and loyalty. She could feel his trust and confidence in her, a reminder of every lesson they had learned together over the years. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. I accept. I will do my best. The emissary inclined their head, and a subtle energy pulsed outward. Mara felt warmth spread through her, a sense of connection not just to the dragons and their people, but to a larger purpose she had never imagined. Around her, the fleet's light shimmered, almost like a celebration, as if recognizing her choice and welcoming her into their fold. Villagers who had watched from a distance could hardly believe their eyes. They saw Mara standing beside a giant dragon, with a fleet of alien ships behind her, and they realized that she was unlike any human they had ever known. Fear was replaced by awe. Whispers of wonder spread through the small crowd. Saphir let out a low, proud roar, wings stretching wide, and Mara felt her own courage solidify. This was her moment, the result of years of care, bravery, and trust. She had grown alongside the dragon she once saved, and now, together, they would face the responsibility of guiding not just humans, but dragons and alien civilizations alike. The emissary spoke once more. You will not be alone. Allies, friends, and companions stand with you. Together, you will lead with courage, wisdom, and heart. Mara looked at the fleet, then at Saphir, and smiled, a mixture of humility and determination shining in her eyes. Then let us begin, she said softly, feeling a surge of energy and purpose. Saphir nudged her again, playful but proud, and she realized that this dragon, once a tiny hatchling struggling a flood, had changed the course of her life entirely. And now, together, they would lead a new era, humans, dragons, and allies united, proving that courage, compassion, and heart could reach across worlds and transform destinies. As the sun rose higher, casting light on the ships and dragons alike, Mara felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. Her journey from a simple village girl to a recognized leader was complete in this moment. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy awaited, and she, alongside Saphir and the fleet, was ready to face it. Mara stood on the cliff overlooking the river as Saphir perched beside her, wings folded and silver scales glinting in the morning sun. Behind them, the fleet of ships hovered, their lights bright but calm, as if waiting for her next move. Mara could hardly believe how far her life had come, from saving a tiny dragon hatchling in a flood to standing as a recognized empress of dragons and alien allies. The emissaries approached, their presence gentle but commanding. "Empress Mara," one of them said, voice like a soft song in her mind, "your guidance will unite worlds. The dragons, our fleets, and the humans look to you with trust and respect." Mara swallowed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She looked at Saphir, who nuzzled her hand, and she felt strength and confidence return. "I will do my best," she said softly but firmly. "I will protect those who cannot protect themselves, and I will work to unite all who wish for peace." Saphir gave a low, proud roar, echoing to the valley below. The other dragons responded, stretching wings and circling gracefully above. Mara felt the energy of their loyalty and power. These creatures, once thought of as myths or monsters, now stood beside her as allies, ready to act at her command. The alien emissaries led Mara to one of the larger ships, a sleek vessel with windows that seemed to ripple with light. Inside, she saw command panels, maps of stars and planets, and creatures working in harmony, communicating silently with dragons. The humans among the fleet, trained and cautious, nodded to her respectfully. Mara realized that this was not just an honor. It was a responsibility to guide humans, dragons, and extraterrestrial allies together. Days passed quickly as Mara learned the ways of the fleet. She observed how dragons communicated with the ships, how strategies were formed, and how decisions were made with respect for all beings involved. Saphir was her constant companion, his presence calming and guiding her. Together, they discovered that humans could contribute knowledge, creativity, and courage that even the advanced aliens respected. Mara realized that humanity's strength lay not in technology alone, but in heart, intelligence, and perseverance. One evening, Mara stood on the observation deck of the flagship, watching the stars stretch infinitely before her. Saphir landed beside her, scales warm under her hand. "We did it, Saphir," she whispered. "All those years, you and I, we made this possible." Saphir lowered his head, nuzzling her shoulder gently. Mara smiled. She knew that their bond, forged in courage and care, had brought her to this moment. The hatchling she once saved had grown into a majestic dragon who had opened the galaxy to her. The emissaries approached again, this time to offer guidance for the first joint mission. Mara listened carefully, learning how to manage fleets, mediate disputes, and plan for exploration. She understood that being Empress was not about power or control, but about leadership, trust, and respect. She would protect the weak, reward bravery, and encourage understanding between all beings, human, dragon, and alien alike. News of her role spread quickly. Humans in nearby regions were astonished at the tales. A young girl from a small village had become a leader recognized by dragons and a galactic fleet. Some were fearful, but many were inspired. Mara's example showed that humanity was capable of courage, compassion, and intelligence that could reach beyond their world. The dragons, loyal to her since the day she rescued Saphir, trained alongside the humans, forming bonds and teaching skills that humans had never imagined. Mara watched as humans learned to ride dragons, communicate with them, and respect their wisdom. She realized that the fear that had once kept dragons hidden from the world was fading, replaced by admiration and friendship. One morning, Mara led a fleet patrol, with Saphir flying beside her. The vastness of space stretched before them, stars sparkling like diamonds. She directed the dragons and ships with confidence, making decisions that were wise, fair, and brave. Each successful mission reinforced the belief that humans could rise to meet challenges, even in the galaxy's vast unknown. After a long day, Mara returned to the flagship's observation deck, Saphir landing gently beside her. She looked out at the fleet, the dragons, and the humans working together. A feeling of peace and accomplishment filled her. "We've done more than survive," she said softly. "We've shown that humans can rise, that we can be trusted, brave, and strong." Saphir lowered his head to her, scales warm and comforting. Mara reached up and stroked him, feeling the bond that had begun with a single act of courage so many years ago. She realized a human spirit, combined with compassion and determination, could inspire even beings from stars. The galaxy beyond was vast and full of unknowns, but Mara no longer felt fear. She had dragons, allies, and wisdom on her side. She knew that humans, when brave and kind, could stand among the stars with honor. As night fell, Mara and Saphir watched the stars twinkle in the distance, the fleet moving in perfect formation around them. Mara felt a sense of triumph, not over others, but over fear, doubt, and limits that had once seemed insurmountable. Humanity, guided by courage and heart, had found its place. Mara whispered to Saphir, "We started with a flood and a hatchling, and now, look at us. We're not just surviving, we're leading." Saphir nudged her gently, and Mara smiled, understanding that this was only the beginning. Together, they would explore the galaxy, protect the innocent, and prove that courage, loyalty, and kindness could triumph across worlds. The stars stretched endlessly above, and Mara, Empress of dragons, humans, and allied fleets, felt the strength of her people and the hope of humanity shining through her. She had begun as a small, brave girl, and now stood as a symbol of human spirit. And the galaxy, vast and mysterious, waited for what she and Saphir would accomplish next.